All right, this episode of the Disruption Lab is taped in front of a live studio audience. Antoinette, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm well. The creation of Neuru began with navigating autism diagnoses for both your daughter and your son.
Yes.
What was the moment where you realized you didn't just need a solution, but you needed to build a solution?
Yeah, so it came after our daughter was diagnosed last year. And realizing that in the span of 4 years in between their diagnosis, nothing had changed. And so it was like, wait, nothing had changed? I had the same, here's your resource packet, a good pat on the back, good luck. And that is when I realized something needed to happen. I didn't know it would be Neuru and what it's evolved to today, but I knew something had to happen.
And no technical background, you've not done a startup before, you've not built software before, but you decided you wanted to build this thing.
Yes, so I do not have a background in tech. I barely understand the architecture that's required, but I'm making my way there, which is great. And so no, I am a mom who just said enough is enough, and I am gonna set out to fix this problem of fragmented resources for families caring for children with disabilities, but mainly autism.
So families who are raising neurodivergent children and often feel overwhelmed because of the therapy, school, the systems that don't integrate and don't collaborate, which is what you're trying to solve here. How does Neuru and the work that you're doing change the emotional landscape for those families? Yeah,
so regardless of how prepared I had felt when we received our daughter's diagnosis, I still felt isolated. I was incredibly sad and emotional. And even though I had, gone through the process with our son, had got him into the necessary resources, had known how to navigate the educational landscape, I still experienced those emotions. And so when I think about Neuru and what I want to provide to parents and building a community, it's instilling a sense of hope for those families and making sure that yes, this is a diagnosis, yes, this is where you're starting today, but this is not where you're going to end up next week or the month after that or a year after that. That progress can be made. It may just look a little different than their peers or the children that are within their age group.
Is it different? You talk about you've already gone through that. You've been through some trials and tribulations. Maybe they're not all the same. But having that experience, the overwhelming feeling that you had, was it because you knew you had to go back through that journey again without any different tools or help? Or, it seems like there would be some confidence in, hey, I've done this before.
Yes.
But not really?
Not really. And what a lot of people say is that when you meet someone with autism, you meet one person with autism. And so knowing that our daughter's journey would be very different from our son's is something that I realized, but also knowing that how do I navigate an autism diagnosis for a girl? Because oftentimes girls are diagnosed significantly later than boys, just because the research hasn't caught up to what it looks like in girls, how autism presents. And so I knew that I could get our daughter into different therapies, I could get her the educational resources that she needed, but as it relates to folks that were in my community raising girls with autism, that was something that I wasn't familiar with navigating. And so I was incredibly anxious about what that would look like and ensuring that she would be on the trajectory to being the best version of herself and what that would look like. But I knew that I needed to be able to connect with other moms, other dads, other caregivers that were raising daughters versus sons that have autism. And so yes, I was prepared to navigate it, but I wasn't prepared to ensure that our daughter got what she needed.
Yeah. You referenced this a minute ago. You're a mom turned founder in a tech space.
Yeah.
What personal myth or belief have you had to let go of, or has changed for you in this process?
Ooh, that's a great question. I had to let go that I'm not just a mom, that I am a founder, and I'm a tech founder at that. And so when I think about tech founders and when I'm looking at demographics of women tech founders, that is something that I needed to let go of, that I don't belong in this space, that I should just hand it off to someone else or allow someone else to solve the problem. And so the myth busting is that it shouldn't be me solving the problem, and I'm not in a position to solve the problem, that I've had to really wrestle with myself, that I am the person, that I understand the experience as a mom, as a caregiver, and holding multiple identities. But more importantly, I did the background, I did the research to going out to making sure that this is actually a problem outside of just me. And because I was willing to listen and engage in a way, that's why I'm the best person for this.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't known you that long, but I've known you long enough that makes me laugh to hear you say that. Like this idea that, and I get the imposter syndrome thing. We've talked about that as part of Social Venture Studio, and how that, kind of sets in for founders, all founders. That at some point in time they feel that doubt or whatever. I watched you navigate this space, and it is, it makes me laugh to hear you say some of those things, because I've just seen you charge ahead in such a short amount of time, right? That you've made so much progress.
Yes. I like to make a point on that.
All
the
right.
reason why is because we have resources in Kansas City to help navigate it. And so not just because I'm on the stage and being able to talk about it, but I remember after I had pitched to Digital Sandbox April 12th of 2024, and I was told no, but then connected with Jill Meyer to say, hey, this is what you should do, and this is where you should connect. And then having a place like Keystone to be able to connect and talk with folks and build relationships, that is why I'm able to charge ahead and feel confident. I don't sit in this chair because it's just me pounding on my chest saying I'm amazing, although I am. It's really because there are folks that have guided and created this pathway forward for entrepreneurs that may be venturing into a space that they're not familiar with, but being able to be equipped with the tools to be successful.
Do you think you'd still be doing this? I mean, so Digital Sandbox, Social Venture Studio, Pipeline, like there's been a series of organizations or backing that you've had as you've gone through this process. Do you think you'd still be doing it if it weren't for those organizations? Like, you spoke to it a little bit here, but like say more about like what it's meant to you in that early stage journey for you personally as a founder.
Yeah, so I officially began this journey, I would say April of 24. But when I think about how I have been able to actually have an MVP that we are beta testing today, absolutely not would I be here if it wasn't for those organizations helping and guiding me along the way. Each of them bringing unique perspectives and value to where we're going, and also not just today, but also where we're wanting to go in the future. Those are things that I know if it wasn't for those organizations, I wouldn't be at this point. And I know I would have eventually landed there through lots of trials, but when I think about tech and how fast it's advancing and how expensive it is, regardless if you have AI tools, it's still expensive. It still takes time and energy and resources in order to build that. And I was able to avoid a lot of mistakes because of those organizations and the different people that show up to those organizations that are willing to share their journey, their experience to help guide me.
What has been your, the leanest path for you to get something real in users' hands as you've gone through this process?
Yes, it is a lot of listening. I experienced the pain of trying to navigate fragmented systems, whether that's healthcare, or education, or therapy services. I've experienced that, but really taking a step back and saying, that is one experience that can maybe be multiplied, but there also may be different inflections for other people. So spending the time to do market research, connect with people within the system, whether that's service providers, physicians, to parents, to caregivers, to nonprofit organizations, everyone that is touching someone within that has a disability, I connected with if they were willing to share their story and open their doors to me. And that is one of the reasons why I've had least resistance, is because those connections have been built, and I've been transparent of where we're going and why I need your support. I'm not coming in there saying, oh, I want to support you in this way, and then not offering that support. So really following through with what I'm saying and what I'm doing, and being invested in how do we build a healthy community, and that incorporates everyone. And anyone that I've connected with, I've said, I want to be a convener, convene the resources, convene the people, but I don't want to specialize and be the subject matter expert in what your organization does.
Sure, no point in doing that. And it's interesting to hear you say that as well, because it's this, this slow down to go fast. Instead of focusing on the building, focusing on building more and building feature, doing all the things, it's been watching you do those interviews, watching you do the homework to then be able to move quicker. It's worked out.
It has.
It's absolutely worked out for you.
It really has.
Yeah. Validation in digital health can be slow, right? It involves just the families, the schools, the systems that you're trying to integrate, the therapists, the ecosystem around this. How have you been doing that listening, and how has that worked in real time for you?
So I've been reaching out to those organizations, attending their various events, not just to go out and do market research, but also because they're hosting some really cool events that our kids enjoy. So that has been fun to learn about these different experiences that our kids can engage with. But when I think about how that works and how I can continue to be in community. Because one of the things that I have highly focused on is I don't want this to just be a digital health startup. I want it to feel like and be that parents are represented, the community is represented in the different features, and how it's structured and the usability of that. And you can only do that by being in community.
How do you balance that? How do you balance the product development, building a company, the families, the people that you're, the population that you want to impact and support, the partnerships and the marketing that you need to do? Like, how have you been able to balance all that?
Yeah, so the first thing that came to mind when I think about that is my amazing husband. He has supported me through this journey, 10 toes down, 10 toes deep. And so because of him, I've been able to sometimes step away for long periods of time from our family so that I can get involved and navigate all those different spaces. But I would be lying to say that it's not hard to constantly share our story over and over again, relive that or see it through the different families that I come in contact with, and hear that there is still this big gap that we are trying to solve that pain point. Those are the moments that it is incredibly difficult, and I've had to take a step back and just take a deep breath and really care for myself in those moments because it's difficult. But as I think about how do I balance and navigate it, I've been able to prioritize it that it's an ecosystem. So you can't just support one without the other because they all are intertwined and working together for the greater good and supporting families that have children with disabilities. And so while it's difficult to balance the parents, the nonprofits, the other organizations, therapy services, it's something that is needed, and it's something that has been expressed through the market validation. And even when folks hear about what we're doing, they get excited. And so that natural referral is happening, which I think is exactly what we want.
So, Neuru centralizes records, medical records, school records, therapeutic records. This issue of data privacy, trust, and usability. How have you been able to solve for those things while actually keeping it simple for the end user? Because that's one of your goals, is to be able to keep it simple and easy to use for the people on the other side of that.
Yes.
What's that been like for you, not being someone who's been in that space or dealt with some of those types of issues?
Yeah, so when I was working with the developers, it was incredibly important that usability was the first top priority for us. Is that if you create something else that I have to do that is not user-friendly, it's not going to be adopted, even if it's the best and latest technology that can be used. And so as I have gone through this process, I've brought people along and had them look at it, feel it, get their feedback, and does this make sense? Does this layout feel right? And to ensure that I am building something that would be adopted. And so when I think about how do we lay it out, how do we make sure that it is HIPAA compliant, how do we ensure that their data is protected, it's also important for us to bring in different experts in that realm. and make sure that it is secure and it is something that parents can trust, not because it makes their life easier, but it also because it protects them.
What's been your secret to getting in front of the people, the experts that you're talking about? You know, and like you talk about going to events. I know that is fatiguing for a lot of people because oftentimes you can go to an event, you might not find the right person. You know they're somewhere, but you might not be able to find them in the event. What has been your secret sauce or your solution to finding these experts that you need to build this platform?
Yeah, so I had told our oldest son that you should never lie to me. And the reason why you should never lie to me is because I'll always find the truth. Either because I know how to find the answers or the truth will always reveal itself. And why I share that is because I would say some would think that I'm a stalker. I would think I just utilize the tools and resources that are available. But I used LinkedIn and AI, like ChatGPT or just the internet, to find out the who. Who is leading this space? Who is the subject matter expert? And it may not be someone that their title is the one that's leading the charge. And so taking a step back, doing your research, doing my research into finding out who is it that I need to connect with, and then utilizing the organizations that are in place or the connections that are in place to get me in front of that person or be able to connect with them. So,
you know, when technology meets real issues in life, like the issues that you're addressing with Neuru, you know, mistakes aren't just bugs. I mean, these things are, they have a different, they sit differently with the end users when these things don't work the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
How have you been able to design this with empathy? How have you been able to like embed that? I mean, your own lived experience, I'm sure, is one of those things, but the other elements of this to ensure that you're hitting the mark for other families.
So when I had done the research to understand what does it need, there was a lot of like, oh, just centralize the resources. So put that all together so there's one login and I can just see everything in one easy to use dashboard. But one of the things that I heard that was an undercurrent, so to speak, was that I am just sad and I'm mourning that my child is not neurotypical. I'm sad that there are going to be milestones that they'll continue to miss throughout their whole entire life. So one piece that I wanted to ensure was integrated, which as I have talked with parents and shared with them, is a journaling aspect in our platform, where there will be daily journal prompts that help them capture those little glimmers or so those moments of happiness. Or her name is Morgan S. I can't remember her last name, but she works at Advent Health, had said inch stones, where there was incremental changes that were made, but they weren't necessarily a mile. They were just like little inch stones that they were just an inch. And so how do we capture that every single day so that a parent can go back and reference that when they're having a rough day? And so that mental health aspect is something that I wanted to capture within our platform so that parents would not only continue to engage, but not forget that your child is not just the diagnosis. They're much more than that. That's one piece of their profile that impacts a lot of areas of their life, but that's not the only thing.
So as a double caregiver and a founder, how do you manage this line between your personal story and Neuru's brand? I mean, I've watched you throw out dates. Your memory for dates is fascinating to me. You remembered when you pitched Sandbox.
Yep.
Like, who remembers that date? But you talk about your lived experience and you talk about your why when you do your pitch. How hard or easy, or how do you manage that line between those two things?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm doing really well at managing the line of sharing our journey and what we've experienced and the changes that our children have been able to have because of the different interventions that we put in place. But there's other times where I'm like, am I sharing too much? How do I still protect like the sanctity of our household and those moments that we have? And so I toil with that often. What I have found is that I allow our kiddos to lead. And so sometimes I'll take a picture of them or I'll record them. And then if they're like, let me see. Okay, are you gonna send that to anyone? Like, huh? So you wanna share this? And so that's when I know that they're giving me the cue to say, it's okay to share this part of our story. Other times I just keep it stored in my photos and in our library to just be able to capture for a later date and see the progress that they've made. So it's a thin line that I'm going to have to continue to be careful and mindful of, but I also allow our children to provide that input on what they want to share or not share to a certain extent. Like they're 7 and 4. There's not a whole lot of guidance that is really happening, but I try to be mindful of that because there are things that they may not want to share. And I also, it's incredibly, incredibly important for me to not make my children feel like or make it appear that I'm exploiting them. And that because there's a diagnosis, now I'm making money off of what they're doing and monetizing that. So it is something that I'm incredibly mindful of as I built Neuru and continue to love all my babies and be their mom.
Do you get pushback from the community on that issue ever? Like this issue of, you're monetizing the issues of our community. Have you felt that? Have you heard that?
Yes, but not for me in particular. There's been some, and it's torn, right? Like there's been TikTok videos and live reels that show a mom crying and saying the reason why they're crying is because of X, Y, and Z. And some parents appreciate that transparency while other ones are like, really? Like you're crying and you're recording it all at the same time? Like that feels a little gross. And so there, it's very divided. There's not a yes or wrong or right answer to really answer that question. I just know for me and even our marketing team, it's something that I'm very conscious of as we put information out there and as we share our story.
What part of this journey for you, this putting so much of your personal life into a digital startup, what has been the most surprising to you, or whether it's unexpected partnerships, tech challenges, or community feedback, those types of things? What's been the most surprising thing that you've learned kind of in this journey so far?
That people recognize that this is a problem and nothing has been done up to this point.
That surprises you.
That's surprising to me. And it's surprising to me because and it's also my perspective, if you recognize there's a problem, there are people that can solve it, but yet we don't. Simply because there either is a reluctance to collaborate or there's a scarcity mindset or whatever it may be. Like it's surprising that this problem hasn't been solved. And it's surprising in the ways because when we look at health outcomes, it impacts health outcomes. It impacts even a parent's comfort level to bring their child to the doctor, which we know that yearly checkups are essential. It impacts like a doctor's ability to care for their patient. And so that's surprising to me that it hasn't been solved in a way that really services everyone, whether that's parents to service providers to educators, everyone is hurting because it hasn't been solved.
I referenced earlier how fast you have been progressing through, since I met you, came to Social Venture Meetup, and you've, just been kind of going through this journey. I want to talk about milestones.
Okay.
How important have, understanding milestones been to you as a founder?
Yes, so if anyone has ever taken the Working Genius assessment, I don't know if anyone has, everyone's like, no. I am a big founder of Working Genius, and there are essentially what it is. It's a set of 6 different characteristics, and you get assigned your Working Genius, which is your top 2, that's where you thrive at. Then you have your working frustrations, which is areas of if you continue to work in those areas, you'll burn out, so you don't want to live in that space too long. And then you just have your bottom half, you don't like it, it's terrible, you shouldn't do it. Well, tenacity is definitely I don't want to do it, don't have that.
Really?
Like, that is
Okay.
not my strong suit whatsoever.
Interesting.
And so milestones have enabled me the ability to get things done. And by setting milestones and saying, okay, I need to achieve this by this date, and this is what achievement looks like or success looks like, has helped me move the needle and get to where I am today. Because if I didn't have those goals and set out, I would not be sitting here talking to you today, sharing our story.
That's interesting to me. I would never have picked through that litany of things that you've got on there. Tenacity would be something that's in your bottom half.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it is. It's in the bottom half of things that I don't enjoy. That I love being in community, and so it is. One of them is enablement. I love doing that. I love thinking up ways that we can solve people's problems and making people feel seen and heard. I love that piece of it. But the actual let's get it across the finish line and show, no. You can, it's not it. It's not it for me.
So speaking of milestones, what are the ones that you're excited about? What are the ones that are right in front of you right now that you can see, you can, almost feel and that you're most excited about?
Yes, so currently we are in beta testing. Woo, we made it. And so we have around 5 strategic partnerships. We're looking to secure around 100 individual beta testers, and the goal is to collect all their feedback and decide on what are the things that we're able to incorporate right now, or we need to wait until Q1 of 2026 or later down the road. So that is probably the first thing that I'm incredibly excited about. The second thing that I'm most excited about is that we hosted our first advisory board meeting, and so brought together 10 people in that are serving as our advisors of Neuru to just, one, get them to meet each other, but then get their feedback on our mission, our vision, our core values, and ensuring that it's very clear on why we are here and how we expect to drive impact, and then how we expect our employees to guide themselves when they're supporting families.
So whether it's mentors or advisors, what's your process for deciding who's going to help you out, or who you're going to listen to, or who you want to seek input from when you're building something like this?
Yeah, so when I set out to form our advisory group, it was important for me to make sure that they were diverse in all areas. So their lived experiences, children, even the ages of their children, how they're connected to the disability, their role, like their full-time role, and wanted to make sure that it was fully representative of that. So we have an educator, we have softwares, we have different, a couple representatives from ESOs. So there was a wide range of folks that are included in our advisory board, and that was very intentional because I wanted those types of experiences personally and professionally to reflect what we're doing as we move forward. And so it took me quite a while to really decide on who would be on our advisory board, simply because of those factors.
How about mentors? What have mentors meant to you in this journey?
Yes. So the mentors have been really great. One, because once the mentor relationship is established, they have no reservations of saying this sucks, or you really should think about this, or did you consider, or let me introduce you to whoever that may be. And so mentor relationships have been critical to me, both on the side of like being a founder, but then also being a woman founder who experiences the problem that we're trying to solve. And so their input has been amazing, and I am incredibly appreciative to each and every one of them that have poured in their time to make sure that Neuru not only were launched, but then we survive.
So we often, in these early stages of startups in your space, in a digital space or in the tech space, we often say, investors are going to invest in the founder. They're going to look at their ability to persevere all of the hardships, the pivots, the decisions that they're going to have to make in the early stages of this thing. So when we think about, what do we look for in founders, it's often that coachability, that ability to take feedback. Can you think of an example where you got feedback from a mentor that really kind of, I don't want to say set you back, but certainly changed your perspective on where you were going and what you were doing?
Which one? I feel like
All
there
right.
are several times where I had to like take a pause, and I thought what I was doing was like, that was it. And so I think the most recent one was during the beta testing from Sujal. I got from him of, okay, you're in beta testing, but how can people access your platform? Who can access your platform? And I was like, anybody. He was like, then that's a full market release. Excuse me, what?
Right.
I don't want to be in that. Like, hold on, let me like go in and try to put in some protections, because no, I don't want to be in a full market release. So that was one that was most recent. The second piece is I had made an assumption that by me sharing the story and me talking about caregivers and how this is a problem for caregivers who are also employees, that just by sharing my personal story, that it would click for folks and they would understand. And that was a huge no-no and assumption that I had made that set me back in the sense of I needed to go back and do more research and really be able to quantify that amount. And that came out during Social Venture Studios from the cohort members, I don't know, or maybe even you that shared that. So that was a piece that I am still working through like right now of how do I actually quantify the problem in a way that speaks to individuals, to businesses, that really resonates.
What went into the decision behind this being a for-profit enterprise versus another nonprofit that was trying to tackle a social challenge?
Mm-hmm. So I have been attending Social Venture Meetup, and Father Justin Matthews had talked about the hybrid venture structure, and that really interests me. And I was like, wait, what? There's more than just like S Corp, C Corp, LLC, nonprofit. There's this beautiful blend of the two. And so he sent me an article from Stanford. And I read the article and really understood that that is us. Like that is what we are aiming to do. And then the more I've been able to do and understand what social ventures are, that there are successful companies that are social ventures. We just don't think of it that way. And it was a really reframing of my mindset on this fits, and it doesn't mean that we can't create a profit and have revenue and still do good. And so that's why we landed on the hybrid venture structure where we do have Neuru being the for-profit entity, and then we have the nonprofit entity that will host sensory-friendly events and be able to engage the community in a different way.
Do you think that realization has made this easier or harder for you? Being a social entrepreneur, easier, harder than not?
Yeah, I don't think it's easier or harder. I think it's just clarity. And so I don't think of it in that way. I think it's just very clear on what we're doing and how we're driving impact for our community.
So Neuru's side, if you were able to redesign how parents interact with schools, hospitals, therapists, into a unified, kind of system, what would that unified system look like and why?
Neuru. It looks like Neuru.
Okay.
There's no aside. That is it. We want everything to filter in through Neuru, especially how parents interact. So really creating one platform that parents can store their educational, therapeutic, and medical records, and that is automatically generated based upon the software systems that are being used. And so I would love, and that's what we're aiming for, is that everything cycles through us by making and simplifying how parents interact, but then also how educators and therapists and doctors communicate with parents, because we all need each other in this system to be able to do. You can't just send your child to school and expect them to learn and that's it. There is a level of educating that needs to happen within the home. And you can apply that to therapy, you can apply that to lots of different avenues. And so when I think about Neuru is what is going to bring those entities together. And we have created and structured our software in the shells and entities so those connections can happen.
And are those two-way connections? So getting the parents organized, getting all the information where it needs to be and centralized is one thing, but the interactions on the other side, are those other side players able to interact then in the system as well?
That's the goal. That's the goal. Right now, when I think about where we are and where we're going to be for probably the next year, we're not going to have that two-way communication. But the goal is when you think about those other entities, they would be able to communicate through here, or at least having us have different mechanisms in place that simplify that end. So for example, participating in the Kansas Council for Developmental Disabilities. And Dr. Laura Gaffney has created this health assessment. And so when I think about that health assessment, how can we plug that in to our platform and then allow for parents to share that with different providers, because it's very comprehensive. And so those are the types of things that when I say integrate and include by subject matter experts, that's what we're aiming to do. And so if there was a parent that had completed that and is able to easily share that out to a platform to their provider, it not only cuts down on that time of asking questions that are already in that document, but as a parent, I don't have to repeat or remember specific dates and times that they may be seen, or they may have visited this provider or got a shot, whatever that may be. And so that is the two-way interaction that we want to be able to have with the partners that would be filling into Neuru.
All right, so for a person who's into dates, so a year from now, July 30th, 2026, aside from maybe watching a World Cup match.
Yeah, or two.
I forget.
Yeah.
Where do you think Neuru is going to be? And then are you willing to come back and tell us about it?
The answer is yes.
All right,
I'm
fantastic.
so happy to come back and share our story. But when I think about Neuru, I think about us being and securing business with hospital systems, to employers, to having caregivers on our platform. So a fully functional platform that those parties are interacting with. And so if I had to put a number on it, I don't think that I can at the moment, because again, I want to get through beta testing, be able to collect that information. But I want, when I think about where I want us to be, whether that's going on Google or using whatever search engine you use, and someone types in, how do I support my child with autism? Neuru is the first platform that comes up. And I know there's mechanisms to getting there, but knowing that that is the trusted source for parents and building that, and what I would like to also say, getting that stickiness within the community is what we're going to be aiming to do within the next year.
All right, so September 18th, circle the date right here. Demo day is going to be here, and you're going to hear the amazing updates that not only Antoinette but others in the cohort have been able to make between now and the end of the cohort. You were talking earlier about the surprise that nobody's done anything about this yet, and all I can think about is how overwhelmed some people with lived experiences where there's social challenges or challenges like this. One of the reasons they don't get solved is because those people with those experiences are so overwhelmed that they don't feel like they can sometimes. And so thank you for being the person who's willing to say, hey, I can do this, but I can also solve this problem and build this company to solve this thing. And doing it in the structure of a social venture, which you know is very important to me and to, I think, the future of capitalism.
Yeah.
So that structure, the way you're handling this, the way you're going about building this company is impressive, and the progress that you've made in you know, I talk about a relatively short period of time. I've seen people working on their startups for a really long time that haven't made it as far as you have in this amount of time. So kudos to you. Thank you for tackling the challenge and taking on this thing. And I'm anxious to hear about the progress you make between now and the end of the cohort on September 18th, but then also to have you back in a year and talk about where you're at with Neuru.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks a ton.
Thanks for providing this platform and doing all that you're doing to support entrepreneurs. And again, I can do this because of the folks that have supported me through, whether it's Pipeline, Missouri Small Business Development Center, NTC, like all the folks that have really poured into entrepreneurs, and then folks that poured into me. I'm incredibly and internally grateful.
Leverage all the resources, people.
That's
it's
right.
all there. So
that's right.
thanks, Antoinette.
Yes.
Give her a
Thank you
hand,
for having
everybody.
us.